streaming.
There we go. Well, welcome everybody. Excited to have all of you here on the Wealth Wednesday. And we'll be hosting today with Kimberly as partner, and excited to have all of you here. Had great messages. The first thing I want to do, though, is just to challenge everybody just to think bigger. Whatever you're thinking, think bigger, think stronger, get aggressive. We're getting ready to finish this year. We expect immediate implementation on the things you learned. What you hear today, go act on. Go tell it to people. Be excited about it. Go share the news. Current good news is a great thing. So without any further ado, we got a great update from our leader and partner, Tim O'Rourke. And got some very important things that are going on right now, and we want you to be on the cutting edge of it. So, Tim, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jody. So, wow, a lot to talk about today. This is kind of crazy. First, let me just say this is I'm going to kind of talk about this in a big picture kind of way. The national debt currently is at I just pulled up the U.S. debt clock. If you haven't seen it, it's usdebtclock.org. O-R-G. You can go watch it. It's kind of mesmerizing to see how quick our U.S. national debt is tweeling on. It's 35.422 trillion. It's moving at a faster pace than my eyes can keep up at. We're going to the fiscal year is going to end right around 1.9 trillion is my guess of a deficit. So I'll come back around that in a second because it's interesting. So currently what's going on is obviously this is a huge disruptor. We just see that Iran dropped hit the button on about 180 ballistic missiles that they sent from Iran over to Israel. A little hello, how are you kind of welcome, and which is really disrupting oil right now. Sent oil up around 3%, 5% at one point, and it settled back down to 3%. So we're going to see inflation back up again. As much as we've seen the Fed talk about how inflation is getting back under control, their target is 2%. And I want to talk about inflation because this is an important aspect of the debt ratio that's going on. But first of all, let's talk about this Iran thing because I think this is important to understand the impact of that. And then the longshoreman strike that's going on the East Coast and the Gulf ports. So we had this Hurricane Helene go through the Carolinas, which Kimberly and Zach saw some of that hit their areas, the North and South Carolina. I mean, when you see that devastation, that's going to have a huge impact on people's lives. God bless those people. I hope everyone's okay and no one that we know what was affected. But the aftermath of that is pretty huge. So we've had that effect. You've got the longshoremen's strike. You got 45,000 people here that are on strike because they rejected their offer. And I think I read it was around 50% increase over a period of time of their pay. And they're not happy with that. The government has the ability to step in and end it, but I think there's some political posturing here going on that we don't see that's going to happen anytime soon. And there's some huge impact on there that we really don't know what's going to happen with that because of the industries that are affected by that, the many jobs. I mean, the things that occur when you have a strike like that of over 50% of the goods and services that come in that are affected to that are going to have a trickle-down effect on goods and services that come into this country. So we're going to see oil, we're going to see, oh my gosh, coal, agricultural products, food products, all kinds of toilet paper, all kinds of things that aren't going to be able to make it to ports. And their ship's going to be basically taken around through the Suez Canal out to the West Coast in order to be dropped off and then shipped back, which is going to cost a lot more to get to the various cities. And so you're going to have an inflationary effect of this over time. So we've got that going on. This attack by Iran is huge, and I think their retaliation is really because they're upset that Israel took out their leader with Hezbollah. And so when you have that kind of tension going on there, they just sent 180 missiles. I mean, just think about that. What happened if if Mexico sent 180 missiles at us? I mean, we'd be in full out war with them. So when you have that kind of tension going on, and you got Iran that produces that amount of oil too, which I think they account for around 4% of the oil, and oil is a really fragile kind of market, even though we see it, that the prices were coming down a little bit lately. You've got this very fine balance, and all of a sudden we're back over $70 on the WTI, 75 on the Brent. So you've got all this going on, and that geopolitical tension, and then Ukraine is still going on now for over 4 years. So this is probably one of the more scariest times I think we've seen on a world platform that's concerning. So let's skip now to kind of where we are in the economy, because I think this affects us and what we're doing. And really, as I've always said, this helps our industry, helps HGI, helps you understand the importance of what we do, because we're now coming into the final, leg of the election, and the stimulus money has ended officially as of the 30th of September. So what that means is all those jobs that were created, basically, those people will get their last paycheck as of October 15th. And that's pretty important, because what we're going to see is a spike in unemployment coming here in sometime in November, and maybe right after the election. So I think the current administration has played this really well, infusing all that capital into the market. So you've got the stimulus money ending, you got the port strike, you've got all the disruption going on in the Middle East, you got the Ukraine war, you've got the service sector lowering now. The services sector kind of hitting the ceiling in what they're doing. And then you got retail sales starting to slow down. Credit cards, as you've probably seen in the news, hit 1.17 trillion in total debt, which is a new record. That's going to be updated here shortly before the end of the year. And I've read that they're forecasting around 1.9, 1.8 trillion from 1.17. So now we're starting to see defaults on credit cards. We're going to see defaults on mortgage payments. We're going to see a recession. I've been saying this for some time now. And I think if you read a number of economists, including Paul Dietrichs, you're going to hear more and more of this. The thing that nobody had any historical relevance to really put into context is no one has ever seen the amount of cash infusion from Congress, from political parties, both sides. It doesn't matter who you vote for, by the way. This is my own personal opinion, because I'm not making this a political statement. I don't trust any politician. Sorry, but I really don't. I really don't trust them, because what they're doing is they pretty much lied to the American public and the world public for many years. Because I want to explain something, and Kimberly and Jody, I want you guys to think about this too. When we talk about the Federal Reserve, it was created in 1913, and it was an act. It was an act created by Woodrow Wilson, I believe. Let's see, when was this? Let me look up so I get this correct. It was done in Yeah, President Woodrow Wilson signed into law the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, which created 12 private banks, privately owned banks, basically to act to take over responsibility for the nation's monetary policy. And so what they did is they put in an inflationary policy, which gives the U.S. the right to print money, basically. So we're the only country really that can print unlimited amount of money and pay for it by devaluating the currency. Think about what I just said here. We're the only country in the world that really can do this without any hesitation. We just go out and print money and we devalue the currency, and that's how we do it. So if you go back and you can Google this or search on the search engine on this, that if you look at the original dollar in 1913, you know how much it's worth today? It's 4 cents. The original US dollar in 1913 is worth 4 cents today in today's dollar. So what they've done is they printed all this money, and the reason they go out 30 years is they know over that period of time, the amount of inflation is correlated to the amount of money they can print. So it's a kind of a formula that there's that lag in inflation to devalue the currency in order to go out and print money and infuse it into the market. Well, the only problem is you can only stimulate the economy so far. And that's what they've done for the last 15 years. Both sides. It doesn't matter. Politicians are politicians. So they each have their, from each state, they want to raise capital for their state, for their own purposes, for their own, different, fat, what do they call it? Pork, fat pork kind of things. But now the interest on our debt is the number third line. It's the highest, just took over higher than the defense budget. So you've got Social Security, Medicare, then the interest on our debt is number 3. Then you've got defense and then Veterans Affairs. Those 5 things account for 87% of our budget. So the other 13% have to run the government. I mean, that takes care of everything else. All the other things that encompass what our government pays for. So there's no room to cut anything. So this is a snowball that can't be stopped. There's no way we can do anything about this. So it's just going to keep building and building to some point where they're saying inflation's under control. No, it's not under control. It's never going to be under control, not with where we are right now. And so what that means basically is we're going to see a constant need for people to find a second income. This is what I want to distill this conversation to is Jody, Kimberly, Patricia, Jade, Zach, Greg, everybody, I want you to hear this loud and clear is Peter, people need a second income. This is why HGI is so relevant today, is because we provide an opportunity for people. We provide the best products, the best opportunity. We have a system, we have training, we have leadership. I mean, we all talk about this all the time. I can't stress how important it is. I just can't stress how important it is. So let me turn it back over to you, Jody and Kimberly. But this is a big week. There's a lot going on, and this is how relevant it is to all of us. Thank you.
No, thank you, Tim. And what a powerful statement. And just piggybacking off of what Tim just said, and everybody listen carefully to the ending there and what I'm about to say, and anything that anyone else wants to add relevant to it. But let me tell you what all this means. Okay, Tim made a great point. Never has there been a time where people needed, a second income. But here's what I want you to understand: there's only 2 things that people should be hearing right now, and sometimes the noise has to get so loud for people to listen, because we as human beings have the ability to deny and not listen. And sometimes you got to feel like the wolf's at the door almost, and And so there's only two things everybody can control. And there's two messages that we should be out. And they just happen to be the two messages that we built our whole company around. Number one is that right now, and these are the only things you can control. One is taking care of your own financial house. Everybody needs to get their own financial house in order. Do you have life insurance? Do you have a will and trust? Are you saving money? Do you have an emergency fund? Those are things that people have to be in control of. It's the only thing they can control. The other thing is someone needs to build their own business. They need to go build their ark. Well, it's better to build the ark before the rain, but it's starting to drizzle. And so people need to they need to go build a business. So everyone knows you can just go full force. You can be as aggressive as you want. For whoever's on your list, and people who've always been kind of pansies about calling on people they know, well, shame on us. You need to go to everybody and say, look, guys, have you read the headlines? And I know on a spiritual nature, there's a lot of people who feel like there's all kinds of signs and they get very spiritually awakened. And well, you should go out and have that same feeling, that same, almost evangelical feel that everybody needs to get their financial house in order because it's the only thing they can control. And at the same time that they need to go become an entrepreneur so that they don't count on everybody else. Saw a great thing last night talking about the strike, and hopefully it won't last very long, and it probably won't just because of all the unintended consequences. Because what's happening is you got all these people they got somebody riling them up, and not saying that, by the way, that there need to be something changed for the guys who are striking. But what happens is you have a group of people get all fired up about, hey, we need to do this, and they do not have any understanding of what's going to happen. Is the two ripple effects? Is all the people all of a sudden if the guys in construction can't get that lumber, they all get laid off. If the people can't get on the assembly line, the car people get laid off. All these people are going to lose their jobs over these people on making this decision, and people are going to be screaming. And so all you can control is you. And this gets back to this, and that leans right into what we have to offer. Kimberly sent me something this morning about that stability is sexy in today's world. Something a post that she has seen. And people can say all those things. We are the embodiment of what people are all hyping out there. We have an industry that's going to last. We have leaders who have gone through these kinds of things. If you look at the number one thing we have to offer, that is tremendous leadership. And I mean, with Hubert at the helm and the leadership team he's got around him, which includes Tim and Steve and myself and Aki and others, Lee, who's great at the home. I mean, great people. You understand that you don't need great leaders aren't really required when it's easy. Great leaders are required whenever the wind's blowing and when it's tough, and that's what we have. We have someone who's gone through way more turbulent times than this for over 40 years and landed the ship safely every single time. And that's what we're all about. So it's pretty exciting for us because we feel like we have the opportunity for that. So that's a very clear message. If you're looking at what to say, you put what I just said in your words. And Zach, you want to add anything to that? Or Kimberly?
Yeah, if Zach unmutes, he can add something to that as well. But I echo everything that you're saying. And we talk about it a lot, especially on our podcast and things like that. And we talk about it with your own personal economy, right? There is a lot of noise out there. There is a lot of fear. There probably should be, right? With everything that's going on. We don't know how that's going to affect us in our future and groceries and everything, right? But the only thing that you can control, because all of that is out of our control, the only thing that you can control is your personal economy. And in that personal economy is exactly what you're talking about. It's having your personal financial house in order, making sure that you've dotted your I's, you've crossed your T's, and you are prepared, right? And I think that's a big question you should ask yourself, or you should ask everyone else, is, are you prepared? Are you? And number two is building a business, building an income, whether you have a job and you need to make extra money or you don't. There's no reason why you can't win in this world. When we look at some of the stories of people that are here at HGI who are successful, and Sylvia's always, comes to mind to me because her story coming from another country, super successful, coming here, having to clean houses and hotels and telling her kids not to answer the door because she didn't want somebody to take them away from her because she couldn't be there because she had to clean everything. And now through the opportunity of HGI, they're making almost $1 million a year. If they're not there, they're probably really close now because she had this opportunity here. And outside of this, she'd still be cleaning houses, right? So it is her personal economy that she took advantage of. It's our personal economy that we have to take advantage of. And that's the message that we should spread to everyone. When we talk about on these Wednesday calls, do you have enough money to retire? Most people think that their retirement goal is $1 million. Well, if we believe in the 4% rule, right, which is mathematically proven that we want to have our money last for at least 30 years, we can't take out more than 4% of it, or it's not going to. That means that you're going to live off $40,000 a year. I don't know anybody that's living comfortably off of $40,000 a year now. I just don't, right? So if you don't have $1 million and you can't live off $40,000 a year, you have to make more money. It's step one in our financial conversation is increasing income. If you do not increase your income, I don't know. It'll be a sad future, I think. So yes, I think it's our message. It's our crusade. It's what we need to shout from the rooftops because we can control it. And it is within our personal ability to make those changes and make that happen.
One thing, Kimberly, I just want to say on that too is that, guys, you got to go be aggressive in your invitation for people to come with us, because what happens when people get scared and confused? They freeze. We all do. It is a human nature is that you freeze whenever you get scared and you're confused. And people hear this information, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm just gonna go home and watch Netflix." I understand that, but it ain't going to go away. It's just going to get worse. And so here, by going to people and letting them know, because Tim did a great job on that. He was passionate about, hey, look, we got the system, we got this. You got to go to somebody and go, hey, look, we got the way, we have the way. Come with us. Come on this journey with us. And when people get around this, it's contagious, and they're able to go do things outside of what they could have done otherwise. That's what the magic of this is. And then on the other side of this is very important. If you don't, people are going to go out and join things where they have no chance. They're going to go join things where they either have bad people running it, or they have an idea that's going to ultimately go down the tank. And how about coming here, figuring this out and building this, and it's going to last the next 10, 20, 30 years. Man, that is a huge selling point in today's world. So great start to this. So we'll shift gears a little bit. Kimberly's going to lead us now into what is our fundamental message, where when you people say, what do? We provide and distribute financial education to a group of people that if we do not take this information to them, no one is, and the ones who are taking bits and pieces of it. We're the only ones who take this message in all its glory to everyone in our country. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what we call the core concepts. And if you have the ability to go online, you want to pull up in the back office right under, all the tools. And by the way, all of the tools we have, whether it's in Aristotle or whether it's using Leader Mastery, are phenomenal. We have incredible tools right now. And you should be just using all of them. So within the back office, under the tab on the left, under marketing, you go to marketing and you see those brochures and presentations right there. You'll see the core concepts. So Kimberly's going to help lead us with Zach through this conversation.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And like Jody said, it just told you exactly where to find core financial concepts in the back office. All of this is created for you. It is at your fingertips. You can use it in presentations. You can use it on one-on-ones with clients. You can get on Instagram and go live or make your TikToks or whatever using this core financial concepts, because it's been it's been approved. Or you can take these ideas and have these, 30-second educational conversations about this. But ultimately, our goal is for you guys and everyone that we meet to understand how money works. So, core financial concepts, creating wealth for families. Number one, just like we were talking about before, right? Take control of your money. You can control this. So, first thing is pay yourself first. Put yourself and your family before any other obligations that you have. So if your goal is to set aside 20% of your income, that 20% of your income needs to come out of your paycheck before your mortgage is paid, before your groceries are paid, before any of that's paid. So it actually happens. Pay yourself first. Number two, earn more money. You've heard us for the first 30 minutes of this conversation talking about the reasons people are going to need more money in our world today and the way it is. And I think if you really take a deep look, every single F&A that I do, that's always my first recommendation to everyone because everybody needs to make more money. Adjust your lifestyle. Understand the difference between your wants and your needs, right? You might want to have a Netflix subscription, a Hulu subscription, and a YouTube TV subscription, and a Apple TV, and however many more of them there are. It's funny, we used to talk about cutting the cable, right? Because they could save all that money. And now I think we're probably paying more because we've got all these different subscriptions out there than we actually ever did with our cable bill. So they tricked us, right? But understand that those are your wants. Your needs are somewhere to live and food on the table and clothes on your body. Those are your needs. Understand the difference between the two and make adjustments if you have to. Sometimes we have to make uncomfortable decisions to be successful. Set those priorities and develop a disciplined budget plan. Avoid the credit trap. If I could tell you anything, it is avoid the credit trap. You guys probably all have your own stories, but my very first credit card was this beautiful red credit card with a black Georgia G on the front of it, right? It made my heart pitter patter when I saw it. And I got it because the MBNA, right? That was the credit card company. They were outside of the student center at the University of Georgia, and they were giving away free t-shirts. And the t-shirt was amazing, and the credit card was beautiful, right? So I got one. And then I took all my friends to dinner with my $500 limit, and then I didn't pay my bill for a while. So it's not a very smart financial decision to make, but we do that so often now, right? As we want to go to dinner and we'll just swipe our credit card going to dinner. And if you don't pay off your credit cards every single month, how long are you paying for that dinner? It doesn't make sense, right? So we have to avoid the pitfalls of that plastic money and buy only what you can afford and pay with cash. I know cash isn't reality probably in most people's worlds anymore, but you still can set a budget and say, here's my income for this month, and that's all I'm spending, whether you swipe it or not. And cash can be your debit card, right? You don't have to use your credit card for everything. But ultimately, change your thinking, change your financial paradigm by changing the way you think about money. Understand it, learn about it, listen to our conversations, listen to other people's conversations, watch what people say on social media, and change your financial paradigm so you can change the way you think about money. These are the 6 steps of financial security. This is what we preach. This is what we talk about. This is on the front of our F&A. This is always my second appointment after my F&A. I literally go through all 6 of these steps with my clients individually in their particular situation to give them suggestions on each of these areas because that's what we do, right? Step number 1 is increasing cash flow. You have to earn more money if you want to get ahead in life, period, regardless of your level of income. You need more money if you want to do something different than what you're currently doing. Step number 2 is debt management. Consolidate your debt, eliminate your debt, understand how to pay your debt properly. I see so many people with 5 and 6 credit cards, and instead of overpaying one of them, they overpay all of them by $25 a month or something like that, right? Well, if they took that extra $25 a month that they're overpaying all 5 of those cards and they put $125 extra on one, it paid off so much faster. But emotionally, we don't look at things mathematically, right? Emotionally, we say, hey, I understand, but I still want to overpay everything. But it doesn't make financial sense. So understand what does and make those changes. Make sure you have an emergency fund. We've had this conversation, continually, especially since COVID. 3 to 6 months of your income needs to be set aside to prepare for unexpected expenses and unexpected happenings. Again, we had that conversation in COVID. That's when people's eyes really opened to, oh, wow, what happens? Now we can have the same conversation with the devastation from the hurricane, right? Like how long are these people without jobs? How long are these people without houses? Can they afford to live until they can, figure it out? It's a big conversation. What if the port closure, transitions into other industries and things like that, and people lose their jobs because we're not selling cars and all of those things? What if? Do you have an emergency fund? Prepare for yourself. If you don't have enough money to set money aside for emergency fund, we go all the way back to step one. You got to make more money, right? You have to increase your cash flow. Step number 4 is proper protection. It goes back to that conversation of, are you prepared? Proper protection's life insurance, making sure that if something happens to you today, your family's taken care of. We've heard this analogy before, but if you had a machine in your garage printing $100,000 a year, you would insure it. Because if it broke, you'd want something to print you $100,000 a year again, right? You'd want to be able to replace it. That's what insurance does. Life insurance will not emotionally ever replace someone that you love that you lose, right? But financially it can. So allow it to do what it's supposed to do. Step number 5, that's where everybody wants to start. That's the sexy money. That's fun. And it's building wealth, right? Once we have our foundation in place and we're literally building on stable ground because we've taken care of steps 1 through 4, then we can talk about building wealth. Then we can talk about how do we want to retire? What does it look like? And step number 6 is preserving wealth, making sure that your wishes are taken care of, your kids are taken care of. If you have children and you don't have a will or a trust, the state's going to decide who's taking care of them, not you. And that's not a position anyone would want to be in. But I promise you, out of 10 people that I meet with, 9.5 of them do not have a will or a trust, and they all have kids. So take that action upon yourself. We have it. It's super cheap. Use NetLaw. Buy it from yourself. Take care of it so you can do that and you can preserve your wealth, but you can also make sure your wishes are taken care of. You have financial prioritization, right? So obviously step 1, this is in that building a house, if you will, that we're talking about. Step 1 is defensive planning. That's where you're protecting. You're protecting what you earn and what you own and what you owe and those you love. That is the basis of that triangle. That is the foundation of your house. And then you can move into offensive planning, major purchases, emergencies, college education, retirement. Then into aggressive planning. Okay, now I've got that taken care of. Now I want to, maximize my plans or outpace inflation or diversify to reduce my risk. And then I want to go into the progressive planning, which is my estate conservation and charitable giving and tax efficiency and business continuation plan. And then finally, my wants. Actually, I think we changed that to say my wants. My wants are at the top of that. So we want to make sure that we work through our financial prioritization in that order. Start from the bottom and work your way up. We talk a lot about life insurance, obviously, here because I think it's the cornerstone of any financial plan. And we talk about different types of insurance. I'm a fan of saying term and permanent, not term and IUL or term and whole life or something like that, because that's really the distinction, right? Term expires, permanent is there forever, is there permanently as long as you pay your payment, whether it's whole life or IUL or universal life or GUL or all of those other policies that we have out there. When you're younger, you're going to have a larger need for a death benefit, right? And as you get older, your responsibility, your financial responsibility probably decreases because your kids are grown, they're out of the house, all of that kind of stuff. When you're younger, you also may not have a lot of money. And as you get older, obviously, you better have a lot of money. So that is the reason that we use that term and IUL combination. Term is going to protect you today, right? Young kids, high debt, house mortgage, a large need for a death benefit policy. And you don't have a lot of money, so we're going to do it as cheap as possible. And we're going to cover that with term insurance. But we also want to protect your wealth. We want to you've got grown children. Well, you probably have your mortgage paid. So now we're looking for income. That's where that IUL piece will be amazing, because you've got the guaranteed death benefit on those policies, and you also have the ability for them to help you with tax-free income, towards your retirement. All right, by term, the rest in perm, exactly what we just talked about just a second ago. So we're going to spend, for the biggest amount of our death benefit, we're going to spend the smallest amount necessary to protect our life, right? To make sure that we've protected everything that we can. And assuming that we have enough money left over, we're going to put the difference into growing our wealth with that cash value in that permanent policy using the IUL. When our term expires, we still have a death benefit with our IUL if we do it properly. The dime, we talk about the dime all the time, right? Life insurance and your insurability. First of all, even if you don't have a huge death benefit need right now, I think it's so important to have life insurance because it preserves your insurability. If you don't get life insurance today because you're young and you have kids in 10 years and now you're not healthy, you can't get life insurance then either, right? So it's important to preserve your insurability as soon as you can for as much as possible. But the DIME method stands for debt, income, mortgage, and education. I use this every single time when I go back on step 4 and I'm presenting their life insurance needs. I tell them, based on this formula, how much income they need or how much death benefit they need to take care of their debt, to replace their income for a minimum of 10 years, to pay off their mortgage, and to send their kids to college. So let's just say that your income's $100,000 a year. You need that income replaced for at least 10 years. So that's at least $1 million in death benefit. And then you can add all the other pieces to that. If they have young kids, if their kids like, 1 or 2, I might extend that for 18 or 20 years for that income replacement. So that child has the ability to grow up without financial struggles, assuming that they're in a 2-income household. But that's what the dime is. And I think as long as we're all using that, then we have a systematic standard approach every single time about how much life insurance somebody needs, because nobody really knows. They're like, oh, I got 250,000. It's plenty. Is it? What do you want to do with it? And it just comes from education, which we give them. The rule of 72. I know this is Jody's favorite slide in the history of the world. So we're going to talk about this, right? How long will it take your money to double? Because we want our money to grow as quickly as possible, and we want it to double as many times as it can throughout our accumulation phase of our life, right? Well, if you divide 72 by the interest rate, it'll tell you how many years it's going to take your money to double. So if you take 2 into 72, your money's going to double every, I guess, 36 years. Is that what that is? Every 36 years. That doesn't seem super exciting, right? I have $10,000 at age 29. Now at 65, I have $20,000. Woohoo, exciting. But what if I do 8%? At 29, I've got 10,000. At 65, I have 160,000. What if I could get 12%? That same $10,000 just by looking at the doubles, the rule of 72, ends up being $640,000 because of the rate of return that we're getting. So obviously the person with the most doubles win. But the other thing that I want you to remember is that the rule of 72 will work for you, or it will also work against you, right? So yes, we want to look at how much we're earning on our investments and how quickly we can get that money to double. But what if we have credit cards? What's the average interest rate on a credit card in the US right now? If I had to guess, I would say it's somewhere 25%. That means that if I take 25 into 72, that means that the credit card's money, the credit card company's money, is doubling every 2.5 years. That is insane. Would you rather just continue to bleed out paying all those credit card payments, trying to pay that off while you overpay your mortgage, because people do that all the time, or you overfund your 401k? Stop the madness. Get out of debt because it's killing you and it's making the banks rich. And let's continue investing once we're out of debt. Big conversations. When does 50% cost you 100%? You've heard Tim say, you've heard me say, you've heard Paul say, you've probably heard a lot of people say, we are going to have a recession. It is going to happen. It is something that I truly believe is in our very near future. But we've said it for a minute. So if it happens tomorrow, if it happens next year, if it happens in 2 years, it's still going to happen. So what does this slide have to do with that? It says, when does 50% cost you 100%? So let's look at this. If I have $1,000 in year one and I lose 50% of that in a market loss, right, or in any kind of loss, then I have $500, right, because I lost half of it. Most people think that if you lose 50%, you have to make 50% just to get back to starting. But that's not true, because if I have $500 and I make 50%, which is what I lost, then I'm only at $750. I'm not back at the 1,000 where I started. So in reality, if you look at the bottom of this, if you have $1,000, you lose 50%, you go down to $500, you have to earn 100%. You have to earn another $500, right? You have to earn 100% to get back to that 1,000. How long do you think it will take you to earn 100%? If you lose 50, how long do you think it'll take you to earn 100%? Probably a minute, right? Probably not going to be as quickly as you lost it. If you guys remember 2008, you remember the recession that hit then. We were down, I don't know, a lot, close to that 50% area. I don't remember if it was in high 30s or what, but conceptually, right? Do you remember what they call the years from 2008 to 2018? They call that the lost decade. And the reason they call that the lost decade is because it literally took most people from 2008 to 2018 to get back to where they were in 2008. That means that for 10 years, they did not make money. That means that if they were 60 in 2008, and they were going to retire. Now they're 70 in 2018, and they're still where they were without inflation, without all the changes in the world, all of that. So it is important to protect yourself in a retirement conversation against market risk as well. Whether you do that with active money management or you do that with annuities, it is an important piece to someone's financial plan. We'll talk here about the power of indexed accounts. This shows you in the red, it shows you $100,000 in large company stocks invested in 97 through 2020. $100,000 in 97 ended up growing to $257,000 in 2020. Had you been in an indexed account for that entire period of time, you would have ended up with $348,000 in that account. Index accounts guarantee loss against the market, right? So they're going to guarantee your floor. So in this account, you can see you put $100,000 in. When the market goes up, you lock in your gain every single year. But you can see in 01 and 2002, when the red line starts going down, the blue line stays stable, right? Didn't make any money those years, but they didn't lose any money either. So we don't have to have that when does 50% cost you 100% conversation. They don't have to come back from the bottom and start over again to get back to the top. They just start right where they were and they start making money again. So that is a big conversation for people when they want to participate in an index or the track and index. But they want their losses guaranteed. That's a big conversation. Also, when do I start, right? Do I wait and pay off all of my debt before I start investing? I think that's what I'm going to do. There's a high cost to that waiting. Even if you can't invest everything that you want to right now because you're servicing your debt as well, you need to find a happy medium between the two. So the high cost of waiting, you can pay now or you can really pay later. This guy on the left that started at age 25, put in $3,600 a year and stopped after 7 years. Brother B on the right says, hey, I want to wait 7 years. I'm going to play from 25 to 30. I will start investing when I'm 31 and I will do the same $3,600 a year. It literally took, so Brother A on the left-hand side invested for 7 years and at age 48, he had $128,000 in there. It literally took his brother that waited that 5-year period of time, almost 3 times, right? Almost 3 times the contributions to end up with a similar dollar amount at age 48 because he had to invest for the entire time after that just to catch up with his brother. So it matters when you start. Obviously, we all wish we had started when we first got out of college or in high school or whenever, but we can't change that. We can't undo that. We can't go backwards, but we can start now. I don't care what it is. You can start now. You can do something now. All right, types of retirement income. This is a long presentation. Types of retirement income. Really, we have 3 different buckets, right? We talk about these as well. We have tax now, tax deferred, and tax advantaged. A tax now bucket is like your bank, your mutual funds, your CDs, and your stocks. You have after-tax dollars growing in, but as that money grows, you're taxed on it every single year, and it's included in your estate. Tax deferred is like a 401k, an IRA, a 403b. You've got pre-tax dollars, so you've saved money in the front end going in. It's growing tax deferred. If you access it early prior to 59 and a half, you've got a 10% penalty for your withdrawals. Your growth and your principal, everything in that bucket when you go to retire is going to be taxed. All of your distributions, because you haven't paid any tax on it left. You obviously have contribution limits where you can only contribute a certain amount of your income. Withdrawals up to 44,000 because of 80 will cause 85% of your Social Security to be taxed. So you have to understand how to play that game. You have to take your RMDs. I don't know if it's 72 or 73 now since this was done, but RMDs are required minimum distributions. Even if you don't need this money to live for the rest of your life, at 72 or 73, whatever the rules say, you have to start taking it. If you don't take it, then you're going to be penalized in excess of 50% from the government if you aren't taking what you're supposed to be taking. And it is included in your estate again. And then you have tax advantage. That's like your life insurance cash value. Your Roth IRAs can be a portion of this in this world, but it's after tax dollars going in. No 10% penalty for ages prior to 59 and a half in life insurance. Your growth is 100% tax-free as long as you take it out, following the rules. The only contribution limits that you have is the amount of death benefit that you have on your policy. The withdrawals do not cause your Social Security to be taxed because it is not counted or treated as income. There are no RMDs or excise tax. So if you choose not to use the money, you don't have to. It doesn't count against you for financial aid for college, which is huge, big conversation, especially if you have 4 kids like I do. And it's not included in your estate, and it could produce tax-free income. So all of those things we can do, and I think that's important to know, regardless of what people want. We can help them with any of those things. It's just important to look at how it benefits them in their financial plan and which bucket do they need, or maybe they need some in all of the buckets. Tax deferred versus tax advantage. So your tax deferred, again, is like your 401k, your IRA. You've got no money on the small amount at the bottom, which is your deposits, the money that you put into this account. You've paid no taxes on that, right? And you've got that tax deferred growth through the years of saving in that account. But you see that red circle, all of that money is going to be taxed as ordinary income on withdrawal. And that's important to know. Your tax advantaged accounts like life insurance, Roth IRAs, you've got your after-tax deposits, which again is that small amount at the bottom. And then you've got your tax deferred growth, but you see that red circle's only on those after-tax deposits. You're only paying tax on the money that you put into this policy before it actually goes in. And then obviously you've got 0 federal tax for qualified distributions as long as you follow the rules of the policy and pull it out properly. And then finally, we talk about living benefits, accelerated living benefits, insurance that you don't have to die to use, which is so important, right? Most people will be sick before they die. And that's just the way of the world now. Whether it's a chronic, critical, or terminal illness, it could devastate your retirement savings. And because most people live, right, through a heart attack or stroke or cancer or something like that, because our medical world is so much better, we want to make sure they have retirement savings at the end of the day, because we hope they get through it and they have a happy life after that, right? But if they have to spend everything that they have and deplete all of their assets to help them live, they might physically live, but financially they're dead. It devastates them. So and then this obviously says beyond 100 days, Medicare pays nothing for long-term care services. So protect yourself with life insurance with living benefits. It is included on almost every single policy that we sell, and it's something easy that you can do that takes care of nursing homes, assisted living, adult daycare, homemaker services, home health aid, any of those things that you might need. As long as you have access to that death benefit, you can use it how you choose. You can take a trip around the world. Nobody cares. You just have to qualify for that expense in order to get that living benefit. So make sure that you have it, protect yourself, right? And that are you prepared conversation. So there are always reasons not to invest. You can look at all of this. In 1934, it was the Depression, and then in 1962, it was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then 1989, it was the October mini crash, and 90, it was the Gulf War, and 2020, it was coronavirus, and today we can talk about everything that's happening, the hurricane, or all of these things. There are always reasons not to invest, but in order to be successful, you have to cut out your reasons and not have a reason. So that is our core financial concepts presentation. I hope that explaining that to you guys kind of gave you an idea of all of the things and all of the concepts and all of the education that we give to people. It is a lot of information. So I think maybe take it in pieces. If you're talking with someone, maybe talk to them about what's relevant to the conversation that you're having. Or like I said, if you're using Cyberzeus and you're doing TikToks, take one of those concepts and make a 30-second video about it. It's very easy to do, but ultimately we teach people how money works, and that's a perfect example.
No, that is, hey, Kimberly, one thing on there. First of all, that's fantastic job, and I want people to recognize you for doing that. Thank you very much. But also, there comes a time when you got to serve the meat and potatoes. You know what I mean? You just got to know when it is. You don't want to dump the bucket at the wrong time. But sometimes, like you said, you ask them what they're wanting to know, and sometimes they're wanting to know some education, and those are incredible concepts. That whole presentation, you gave it in about 25 minutes. And if somebody's not willing to take 25 minutes at some point to listen and get their financial life in order, I don't even really know quite what to say. So don't apologize for teaching. Don't lead with it. Like you said, don't want them having drinking out of a fire hose, but know that stuff. And they're all fundamentals. They're all things, I'm unique. But if you know me well at all, I'm just a fanatic on the rule of 72, because I personally think if you just led with that and just found out how many people know about it, and you'll be stunned how few know about it, guys. Go educate, be excited. Thank you so much. We will see you. I will see those of you that have guests on at 1:30 for the financial professionals overview, Bob. And then Thursday night, we got a great program lined up with tremendous training, and we'll see all of you on there. And thank you, and see you next week. Take care.
Great job, Kimberly.